Another school shooting, this time in Nashville, Tennessee. Police say a shooter opened fire there, killing 3 9-year-olds and 3 adults at this private Christian elementary school. Police identified the shooter as a 28-year-old former student at the school. I want to bring in my panel. Catherine Schweit is the former head of the FBI Active Shooter Program. Elsie Granderson is an op-ed columnist at the Los Angeles Times. Nicholas Carson is a global editor-in-chief of Insider. Scott Jennings is our CNN political commentator. And Lauren Leader is a political analyst. Thanks to all of you for being here. Catherine, I want to start with you because you studied active shooters from, I believe, 2008 to 2013. 2000 to 2013. I think you studied 160 of them. What can you glean from the facts we know at this hour about this one?
Boy, I don't know. This is a tough panel you've got tonight, so they're on fire. So I have to be careful what I say. But what we've learned so far is that we have exactly what we see a lot of situations, exactly what occurs in a lot of situations. You've got an individual who has some real or perceived grievance, and they formulate this plan and they buy the equipment they need to execute it. They do the surveillance and purchase their ammunition and plot their way out so that they can leave their message and send a message for whatever that is. And we'll see what that is, but it'll be pretty common. What we see in a lot of times, a very troubled person, right, who wants to leave their mark and say something when maybe they don't feel like they had an opportunity to voice whatever that was.
Yes, I suspect it will be something that we've seen before because we've seen so many of these. And Scott, you and I have had these conversations all too many times. And I often ask you for solutions. I don't know if you have any tonight, but I just feel that we have a circular conversation always when this happens. And I want to stop having that circular conversation. And I want this to stop happening. And I just don't know what more we can say about a troubled person with access to guns going in and taking it out on little kids.
Well, I'd like to see what was going on in this person's life. What do we know? We know that the police chief has indicated that there may be some resentment towards this school.
Sure, but I just want to stop you for a second. It's an elementary school. This person is 28 years old. So
these are the chief's words, not
sure,
mine.
No, I'm just
telling you what he said.
That one is a little bit hard for me to digest because that was 20 years ago or 15 years ago. But go on.
We also know this person wrote some kind of a manifesto, which they haven't released yet. We also know this person made diagrams, which tells me there was some sort of premeditation here. So I'd like to know what was going on in this person's life because I would like to know who else knew about it. I mean, one of the things that strikes me is really important here is, did other people in this person's life know that this person was potentially violent, potentially a harmful person? And if they did they tell anyone? And if they didn't, why not? That's one of the things I'd like to know. This is the red flag conversation, that some states have enacted, and it's not foolproof, but that's one thing. Just before I turn it over to the panel, I just wanted to say we need to say God bless the Nashville police. Showed up in minutes and took care of the situation, totally different than Uvalde, and also God bless those parents. I've got a kid who's 9 years old, and the idea of dropping off your child only to have them never return. I can't even.
I don't even want to talk about the shooter anymore. I'm so tired of talking about these shooters because the story's the same thing over and over again. It doesn't matter. I want to talk about the fact that millions of children are living every day with terror going to school, which is supposed to be safe. My entire life, there was not one school shooting my entire childhood. Why? Because AR-15s, assault rifles, were banned into the late 1990s. And so I never lived with this, and millions of children are living with it. So I personally want to stop talking about the shooters, stop trying to diagnose what's happening. All over the world, there's crazy people. All over the world, there's aggrieved people. Only in America do we have these mass shootings day after day after day. It's not even close. The numbers are not even close. And there's a red line when you watch the numbers in the chart. It changes the day it changes. The day we start seeing this massive spike in shootings, in mass shootings, is when the assault weapons ban expired. It is as simple as it gets. So we are allowing our children to live like this. We are prioritizing weapons over children's lives. And I think millions of Americans are sick of it. It's really the only conversation we should be having is when are we going to ban the ARs? Every mass shooting has been an AR-15 for the last year.
Yeah,
Nicholas?
yeah. All you can do as a parent is, I have a 5-year-old and a 7-year-old, is just throw your hands up. You know, I mean, I remember Sandy Hook, and it was like, well, this will change it. You know, these things just not changing, and I don't know. We just wake up. It's going to happen again. I mean, it's going to happen again.
There is a feeling of helplessness, and there is a feeling of, well, I guess we can't do anything. Our kids are sitting ducks. I mean, it's got to that point where we're feeling like, well, this conversation is intractable, so I guess we'll just send our kids and cross our fingers.
We're treating.
Does democracy work or not?
Yes, it
That's-
does.
That's the real question.
Yes, it does.
Because if it works, why are we sitting here saying there's nothing we can do?
Absolutely, there
is
is.
something we can do.
You
We
bet.
can vote out these elected officials that are protecting the gun lobbies, that are protecting all these wings that are pro-guns to the point in which there's not responsibility and accountability being used as the center of the conversation, but rather access is the center of the conversation. Access shouldn't be the center of the conversation. It wasn't in the Constitution. What does it say? Regulated militia. Regulated. Who was regulating it? Well, if you go back and look to the forefathers, it was the government. It wasn't individuals regulating themselves. Somehow, some way, the NRA and those who are misusing the Second Amendment in order to have gun proliferation have taken what we know the forefathers meant and bastardized their intent in order to allow this gun manufacturing to continue and have all this money that's invested in the gun lobby. I mean, that's what it is.
Guns are the leading cause of death now for children. None of the rest of it matters. The fact that we let this happen is malpractice. But if you want to know what we do about it, go look at the playbook for Every Town for Gun Safety and what Moms Demand are doing. Every day they are on State House grounds. They are in Washington every day organizing, mobilizing, and pushing for changes in state laws. And actually, they've been incredibly successful in passing a huge number of gun control measures in the states across the country. We need more of that. And democracy does work when we stand up and participate. But at this point, like, we've also, I think we are so inured that is the response, which is we feel we can't do anything. And that is a self-fulfilling prophecy. Yes, we can. You just reported on what happened in Israel. You know what? Israelis were angry about what their government were doing. They went in the streets and they protested. We have all the same rights to petition our government for our grievances as other democracies. In fact, we set the standard for that. We absolutely have the ability to change this.
Catherine, what do you think as you listen to this conversation?
We have a lot. We are making a lot of progress. Politicians be damned. I can tell you that. LZ, we have a definition for mass shootings that DOJ came up with in 2022. They just haven't really. It's been publicized, but not well enough, apparently, right? And there are things that are being done in San Jose, California. They passed a law that is certainly standing up right now that says that if you own one of those weapons, you have to have insurance, so that you're going to have to pay for it if there's injury done with it. The red flag laws, I think law enforcement is asking me privately. They're saying we'd like to see something that I would call an enhanced red flag law, where instead of having to go to court, if they go to somebody's house and they find that there's a person who's a danger to themselves or the others, they want to be able to take those guns then, not when there's an adjudication afterwards. And so I think that's something that then there could be an adjudication, but the guns will be out of the home. I think that's something that some communities are looking for. In addition to that, you talked about training for weapons before you're allowed to get them, better work on suicide prevention, on understanding that more gun deaths are part of suicides in this country, that a third of the homes do not have secured guns. When you have guns in your homes, a third of those homes have at least one unsecured gun. So better campaigning about secured firearms, requiring reporting when they're lost or stolen. I just read yesterday that the largest number of stolen guns that occurs is in cars, because now everybody's carrying a gun. They go into a sporting event and they tuck their gun in the car, and the kids go through the parking lot and take all the guns. So we have to hone down those individual things that are going to help us to make that process, take the guns out of the people's hands that are dangerous, and then do it despite or in addition to these additional gun laws.
Catherine, you are a font of information.
Yeah, it's so helpful,
that was
actually.
so helpful to have you wrap it up. Were you going to say something?
Well, I don't know. I'm just surprised to hear the lack of curiosity about the shooter's motivation. I mean, it's quite apparent that this person had something going on in their life.
But do you
Well,
think
they all
that?
have something going on. in their
Yeah, I
lives.
mean,
But that's the point. In a few of these cases, we don't like the Las Vegas shooter. I mean, I think that one's still
That's a mystery.
a mystery.
But is
But in
everything
most
else-
cases,
yes.
what's going on in this particular shooter's life that caused the chief of police to say, I think they had a resentment about having attended a Christian school?
Yes, I
mean,
think
is this an anti-Christian hate crime? Is no one is interested in that?
I guess
I'm gonna
it's
need you
just-
to pump
well,
the
but-
brakes on the
On
anti,
what?
because you don't know the religion of the shooter either. So how are you going to call it
I'm quoting
anti-Christian when you don't
the
even know?
police chief who said there is a theory that the shooter had a resentment about going to the school.
Yes, but you
I'm
don't know
quoting
why.
what was on our air
Yeah, but you don't know
tonight.
if it's based upon religion or some other factor.
Yeah,
You're
but
interjecting
hold on
that.
a second.
The shooter is
hold on,
dead, but
just-
millions of children are going to school tomorrow. And so it's
Yeah.
not that I'm disinterested in what happens to the shooter, but I care more about what's happening to my kids when they get to the school
Yes.
tomorrow.
And I used to be very interested in that, but then it didn't change anything. Like knowing that they were disturbed, it didn't end up
Right.
changing anything. So I've changed a little bit in being that interested about the shooter because they do all seem mostly to have mental health issues, and there were precursors. But I want to show you this. We are now getting the video. The Nashville Police Department tonight is releasing the security camera footage of the suspect shooting their way into the school. Obviously, we warn you, this will be very disturbing. CNN's Carlos Suarez has more. Carlos, what have you learned?
Well, Allison, just a few minutes ago, authorities out here in Nashville released about 2 minutes worth of video showing the 28-year-old shooter essentially coming into this school here. The video shows the 28-year-old shooting out the window of a glass door and then eventually making the shooter gets inside of this school. Now, the surveillance video also goes on to show this shooter walking around what appears to be a hallway. Once inside this school, the shooter does have this AR-style type weapon. You can see it in the surveillance video. It is important to note here that at no point in the video that was released today do you see any staff members or any children in it. Now, for a good part of the video, the shooter seems to go inside of one room, spends some time there, then comes right back out, and then is seen once again pointing this weapon, making the shooter then goes from one room to another, and then eventually passes down one hallway. The entire night, really, the Nashville Police Department has been releasing photos of the scene out here, this front door at the building that was shot out. And so they'd been giving us an indication that they were going to release this video. And so just a few minutes ago, they shared that piece of video. Again, it's about 2 minutes in length, and it shows the 28-year-old getting into the building, which, according to authorities, the shooter had really meticulously planned out. A great deal of time and effort, it appears, had been spent on planning this attack, which they believe was targeted. And so tonight, again, Allison, we are getting our first look at some surveillance video inside of the school as this shooting was taking place.
Carlos, thank you very much. Nicholas, it's obviously so disturbing.
Oh, there's a person walking around the school looking for children to shoot. It's unbelievable. I mean, I've never seen this kind of imagery of a shooter in a school before. You know, I went and picked up my kids the other day. One of them was sick. It looks just like that.
Right, of course.
I mean, it's just terrifying. I don't know. It's horrible. It's horrible.
Yeah. I mean, what more can you say about it? It's just so sickening to see that and see how quickly they were able to get into the school by shooting their way through a door. Catherine, what did you think watching that?
Yeah, it's a little surreal, right, for everybody. You notice how slowly the shooter is walking around looking for some target because they spend so much time planning for this event, and once they get there, it's almost there are no hail of bullets, so it's kind of a letdown. We see that with a lot of shooters. The other thing I noticed, there were several rounds that went through the door before she came through the doorway, and then she just got in, then okay, all of that flurry was over. Now she's just looking, and she spent a long time, so I felt like she was looking for someone in particular, not just a student.
Yeah. Catherine, thank you very much for your expertise. Really great to have you join us on the panel tonight. Thanks so much. Panelists, thank you very much for all of your thoughts. So the Manhattan grand jury investigating former President Trump's alleged role in this scheme to pay hush money to the adult film star, Stormy Daniels, well, they adjourned today without taking a vote on whether or not to indict. We'll tell you who testified today.